Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am working on week 36 Project Life and I'm using some of the new Citrus Twist Flea Market Findings kit. So I've got the 6x8 papers and at the moment I'm going through some of the 3x4 cards. I love those cards. A lot of them have got sort of quotes on the back of them, and then there are these really generalized kind of library looking cards on the other side. Super handy for Project Life, which I love. So I've picked out one of those and I've used a kind of wood grain diamond sort of card as well. And then I kind of struggled with my third little 3x4 here. I really liked this one here, except that it was a very stark kind of white compared to the rest of them. Like I've used a cream colored library card, and it's sort of a floral, it's a leafy pattern, and it's got that same kind of cream colored background. So that bright white just really didn't work in that space. It was the only spot on this whole page that has that super bright white in there. So I went and grabbed out my everyday life journaling cards, and I had a little bit of the same issue there. I was trying to find one that was not quite so bright white, and in the end I've gone for one that's a grid pattern, a very light blue grid pattern, but the background is a little bit more muted rather than that bright white. So for my 4x6 cards, I'm going to swap things out. I started off by having that kind of peachy orangey colored paper at the top only and the wood grain down the bottom, but it was very heavy having the wood grain down there, so I ended up just using the other half of the peachy colored paper. There's a few kind of yellow and orange sort of highlights in my photos this week, and that's what I'm going to play up. We had a bit of a cocktail night, so I can see my little Aperol spritz features in several of the photos down there, so I'm going to end up with kind of quite a lot of orange and yellow for the daffodils, and it's not really a combination that I use a lot, but I kind of love it, so that's what I'm going for. Just going through the die cut pack. As always, there's a billion little pieces in here. I'm going to try and use up quite a few this week, otherwise they just end up going back into my stash, and my stash is significantly large already, so I don't need to add any more. So I'm going to do quite a lot of kind of layering in there. And the other thing this week is I had no horizontal photos, so I didn't have anything to kind of have a 4x6 photo. So up the top I did a little photo grid of Lil, and down the bottom in both of the 4x6 spots I'm going to use 3x4s, and on this left side here I added a little space to do some journaling. So all of the 3 photos along the bottom relate to this one particular story, and my other journaling spot up there relates to another one of the photos. So I don't have any kind of generalized week journaling like I would normally do. I'm just literally telling 2 stories about some of the photos in my spread. So it's a little bit different this week, but I kind of like that. I like that the journaling's a little bit more specific, because I guess like my weeks are pretty similar most weeks. It's not too many differentiations in there. So this week telling those 2 different stories just was kind of a nice change up. So I added the die cut word good, and it's spanning both the photo and my words. So that was kind of the technique I guess I used to tie all of that together, so it makes it appear as it's one kind of story along the bottom. And then I did trim down, there's a 6x8 paper in this pack that's kind of a cut apart sheet. I have already cut it apart, and so I'm using a couple of those pieces, one of which I trimmed down a little bit further so it was kind of a tiny word, and added that across the top of the good, just because it felt like there was a little bit of extra space there. So my other 4x6, I've just kept the paper as 4x6 and added my 3x4 photo on top, and then layered a couple of those other die cut pieces under the smaller photo. So that's my whole bottom row done, super simple. I loved this XOXO die cut piece for my photo of Lil. I do wish it was a tiny bit smaller. It takes up quite a lot of room on my photo grid, but I really loved it. And to be fair, The photos are all pretty similar. It's just her begging for chips, which happens often. So I wanted to use that piece just directly in the center. It sort of suits it nicely because I've got this really even grid of 6. But because it's die cut, the XOXO part, it was a bit distracting having the bits of the photo showing through there, so I'm going to back it. And I also struggled a little bit with what to back it with. So I've backed it with this blue card, a piece from one of those everyday life journaling cards. And it doesn't show up very well here on camera. It definitely has more contrast in real life, but it picks up a little bit more of the blue, kind of blue tealy colors that are also in my photo and some of the die cut pieces that I'm going to use this week. So the other 3x4 photos here, they've both got tiny little square photos. I think they're about 2¼ inches. And I'm going to really just do the same thing. It's just layering on some of these die cut pieces again because I really want to use up some of them. So I'm mixing up little tiny words and some of the larger pieces as kind of backgrounds for there. But it really is pretty basic. This one I really loved it. I think it says a good story on it, but it was too small. I wanted to be able to see both sides of it. So I just split it down the middle and I'm going to glue one end at the top and one end at the bottom. Makes it look like it's super long, but it just adds a little bit more of a background to that piece. And then the other die cut that I'm adding is definitely kind of just a textural piece. It's got these kind of, I don't know, notebook ends to it. So I'm just sticking that underneath there and popping that down. So it's a little bit different than the other photo. And I'm going to do the same thing with this 3x4. I just couldn't quite work out the right placement for it, but it's this little tiny word. I've got 2 tiny words about sunshine, so they worked nicely, despite the fact that my photo was actually me rescuing those daffodils from hail rather than sun. There was no way a freak hailstorm was going to steal the first of my spring daffodils, so I dove outside and picked them all out, and they lasted really nicely. It was nice having that little bit of sunshine inside in a vase rather than out in the garden. So my title card's going to be pretty simple. I'm just using that sort of teal numbered strip across there as a piece from that cut apart paper, and then another yellow label, so adding a little bit more of that yellow up there. And then I'm going to use my brand new favorite alphas. I know I say that every time I get a new alpha. It's just how I am. These are like favor of the month, definitely, for sure. The Penelope alpha. No numbers on this one, so I'm just going to spell out the word week. And I didn't really plan for how big that was going to be. These are kind of like they're a very large elongated alpha. And so for words like this, I kind of got lucky that it fit, but obviously there wasn't a whole lot of room left for numbers on there. So what I decided to do was to grab these, I think the Bishop Street alpha from Kelly Stamps, and I'm just going to sort of over stamp it. So I'm going to stamp it on top. I stamped week in black, and I'm just using this Catherine Paula Bellini ink to just stamp over the top. So it gives me that little pop of kind of peachy orange to really tie the whole sort of color scheme together. You can still easily read week. You can easily see what week number it is. But I just felt like I wanted something else, just a little bit of extra kind of, I don't know, embellishment on here. So I took a few of the cards over to my sewing machine and just added a little bit of stitching to some of them. It kind of really plays up that sort of flea market-y vintage kind of look, gives it a little bit of texture, and just finished it off nicely. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to leave a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again next time. Bye.